So me, 30-year-old female, and my husband Josh, 32-year-old male, have been married for 6 years now and have a 4-year-old daughter and 9-month-old son. My husband has a childhood friend, Amy, fake name. Amy and I are mostly civil, but she often comments on various things, especially if I am doing something. My husband is an introverted person and does not have many close friends, so I never really say anything. We hosted dinner a few days ago and invited Amy as well. They were drinking as well, and while drunk, Amy said how she could not believe Josh already has 2 kids when they are all single, even though Josh used to tell them how he never wanted to marry before 30. Things got a bit awkward, but she went on to say how I wasn't even his type, and still we got married. At this point, I was angry, but Josh calmed me down, saying she is just drunk. After my son started crying, I went to feed him formula. The thing is, due to some complications, I wasn't able to produce milk for my son. When Amy saw it, she said, "If I was a mom, I would never feed my baby some formula. It's kind of crazy how you all are okay with feeding such things to your baby." I really lost it and told her to shut up and mind her own business, that this was my house, my husband, and my baby, and she is in no way eligible to talk about someone else's married life when she couldn't even keep a man in her life and is now living alone with her cats. Upon hearing all that, Amy started crying and soon left. Everybody left soon after. My husband says it was okay for me to be angry, but it was a bit harsh for me to say all that since everyone knew Amy was struggling with her mental health. I have got texts from a few of her friends cursing me and asking me to apologize to her. I have since blocked them all, but to be honest, I don't want to. It wasn't the first time she said something inappropriate. It was the final straw, and I couldn't take it anymore. She is apparently in a bad mental state since she was also cheated on by her fiancé of many years in the past, so I really don't know. I have started to feel bad, and maybe I was over the line. Update: I don't know how to update separately, so I'll just write it down here. Holy shoot, after I did my chores, I have been reading all your texts. To clarify some things, even though nobody said anything at the moment, the situation did get very awkward for all. Those who were at the party later did apologize for Amy's behavior. People who sent me the nasty texts were all Amy's friends and not part of our group, so I didn't really feel like telling them anything, as I am so exhausted already and blocking them seemed easier. Well, I went to my husband and told him how everything bothered me. I also told him all the other times when Amy said something passive-aggressive. She would usually say those things when we were alone, so he didn't know about it. And it was actually the first time she acted that way in front of everyone. My husband was shocked. He told me that I should have spoken sooner, and that the reason he didn't say anything was because I am a very chill person overall, but Amy's mental health was bad, and she would have frequent meltdowns. He just didn't want to stir up drama and create more tension. He did apologize sincerely, and then I texted Amy apologizing for my comments, but told her about how her comment was inappropriate, and she needs to apologize as well. Well, Amy just cursed me and blocked me. To this, my husband texted her telling her how she is being disrespectful and that he would be in no contact with her as well, and he blocked her as well. Soon, my husband got a lot of texts saying how Amy was having a meltdown, and according to her, I am manipulating and isolating my husband from his friends over trivial matters. I nearly laughed at her assumptions. My husband is also done with her nonsense. He told his friends about everything and told them how he was done with her nonsense. This has caused the group to split. Apparently, there are others who are also done with Amy, while some still sympathize with her. For now, my husband and I are just focusing on our life. I hope Amy gets help as she needs so others don't have to suffer from her tantrums. To all saying my husband had an affair, well, that is not true. Also, I don't think Amy liked my husband since she was one of the popular ones who was only interested in popular guys, whereas my husband was far from her type. By the comment of me not being my husband's type, well, growing up, I was on the chubby side and nerdy, so not really conventionally pretty, but while dating my husband, and I got interested in swimming and other activities and had a bit of a glow up. Also, she was clearly in love with her fiancé, another popular guy from college. But well, he turned out to be a scum. Why she didn't like me, well, I will never know, nor is it my problem anymore. Have a good day, people. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So your husband sat there and let this woman disrespect you and then tried to talk badly about your parenting, but you're the AH. Having mental health issues doesn't give you a free pass to be a C-size channel. I'd tell him he needs to tell her what she did was disrespectful and out of line, and he will be cutting her off. And I'm curious, what does she think his type is? Her? Comment 2. Not the idiot. Amy sounds like she is jealous and would have wanted your husband for herself. Bad mental health is no excuse for being a jerk. If you can't take it, don't dish it out. Your husband really needs to step up here and have your back. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So So the other day, things went from bad to worse. Remember how I mentioned Amy's meltdown? Well, she didn't just block me and have a fit. She went and did something that really got under my skin. She showed up at my work. Yeah, you heard that right. She came to my office making a scene, crying and telling everyone how I was the reason for her breakdown. My boss had to step in, and it was so embarrassing. I had to explain the whole situation to him, and thankfully, he's understanding. But it was the last thing I needed. I went home fuming, and guess who was waiting for me? Amy. She was sitting on my porch, looking all pitiful. She started apologizing, but then she switched gears and accused me of ruining her life. I couldn't believe it. I told her to leave, but she wouldn't budge until Josh came out. He was firm with her, told her she needed to get her act together and stay away from us. It was a mess. But here's where it gets really twisted. The next day, I found out that Amy had been spreading rumors about me and Josh. She told people that Josh was the father of her sister's baby. I mean, come on, that's just low. Josh was livid when he heard about it. He's a private guy, and this kind of gossip is his worst nightmare. We had to sit down and talk to some of our friends to set the record straight. It was draining, to say the least. And if that wasn't enough, my sister-in-law called me later crying. She had a huge fight with her husband because he believed the rumors. It took a lot of convincing and a paternity test to clear that up. The whole family was dragged into this drama, and it's been tough on everyone. Now, I'm just trying to keep my head above water. Work is stressful because of Amy's stunt, and my family is still reeling from the fallout. Josh and I are okay, but this whole ordeal has put a strain on us. We're trying to focus on our kids and move past Amy's chaos. I'm not sure why Amy targeted me like this. Maybe she's always been jealous, or maybe she's just lashing out because her own life is a mess. Either way, I'm done with her. I've got enough on my plate without her drama. I just hope she finds the help she needs so no one else gets caught in her storm. Thanks for reading. My religious family stages an intervention to force me back to church, but I walk out and leave them praying for my return while I start a new life, free of guilt and lies. I don't have anything against religion or people who are religious. It is just not for me. Let's start with the beginning. I, 22-year-old male, was raised in a Protestant Christian household. Not just my parents, but all my grandparents, aunts and uncles, nephews and nieces, and other relatives are religious. It was never very strict or a bad experience growing up. I wasn't allowed to watch South Park, for example. But other than that, I can't remember there ever being a thing I wasn't allowed to do due to religion, other than cursing. Sure, when I was younger, like until 12 years old, I thought that God was real and the Bible contained nothing but the truth. But the main real reasons for that were, most adults in my life were religious, afraid of going to hell if I didn't believe. The Bible was over 100,000 pages long. Surely no man could ever think of that by themselves. I was brought to Sunday school, went to church at least once a week, and when I became too old for Sunday school, I went to a weekly teenage Sunday school, catechism. I tried to believe in God for a long time, but it just never clicked for me. I think when I was 17 or 18 years old, I stopped trying. I still went to church like every other week to keep my parents happy. Honestly, I thought I could just keep up the facade and never have to deal with this. Well, tonight it finally happened. My mother was angry at me for not going to church today. I have been going less and less recently, and she asked, "Do you even still believe in God?" We've had this discussion before, but today, I couldn't keep lying anymore and told her the truth. No, I don't, and I never really have. We talked for about an hour in which I explained how I felt and my reasons for stopping to believe. Now my mother is crying, feeling guilty for putting me on this planet, guilty for failing in raising me to be a Christian, guilty for failing God, and guilty for ruining my soul. She is now angry at me for rejecting God and lying to them, and basically said that she didn't want to see me for a while. I tried to point out that in the Bible, it says that God has come for all, but she's adamant in her belief that without God, your life is basically doomed. I feel terrible and told her so, but I think it is unreasonable to ask of me to believe in something I just simply don't. Honestly, this was the reason I never told her. My mom is very emotional, and I knew she would break down if I ever told her this. I can't believe I would ever hear this from one of my own children, was the last thing she said before I left. So am I the idiot for lying about it and upsetting my mother? Told my mother I don't believe in God, and now she's angry at me for lying to her about it. She's now partly blaming herself for ruining my soul. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot, you believe what you believe, and she wasn't feeling guilty about anything. She was trying to shame you for your beliefs. There is a big difference. I am sorry to say that she is a hypocrite. Christians believe in Jesus, and nothing that man ever did implies he would not accept you and never give up on you because you believe something different. Her belief system is skewed. Comment 2. Not the idiot. OP, you didn't do anything wrong. You were asked a question and you told the truth. You don't believe, and that's fine. Now really, as a Christian, your mom should love you regardless and accept you. But we all know that not all Christians act like that. It's a sad situation, but it's better than living a lie. Now for the update, thanks for all the comments on my last post. So after the blow up with my mom, things went from bad to worse. The next day, my dad, who's usually the quiet type, sat me down for a serious talk. He said he'd been thinking all night about what I told mom and that he felt betrayed. He couldn't understand how I could turn my back on everything they taught me. I tried to explain it wasn't about them, but he wasn't having any of it. He said he needed time to think about what this meant for our family. The day after that, my aunt called. She'd heard from my mom and was full of "I told you so's." Apparently, she'd always suspected I was a non-believer because I asked too many questions in Sunday school. She said the family was planning an intervention to bring me back to the fold. I couldn't believe it. An intervention, like I was some kind of addict. I told her to count me out, but she said it wasn't a request. The family was going to save my soul, whether I liked it or not. I was still reeling from that call when my younger sister texted me. She was in tears, saying that mom and dad were fighting about me. My dad was blaming my mom for not being strict enough, and my mom was blaming my dad for not being around enough. It was a mess. My sister said she didn't know what to do and that she felt caught in the middle. I felt guilty for causing such a rift, but at the same time, it wasn't my intention to hurt anyone. The next day, the intervention happened. It was like something out of a movie. My entire family was there, even my grandparents. They all took turns talking about how much they loved me and how they couldn't stand by and watch me throw my eternal life away. My grandpa, who I always thought was cool and laid back, was the most vocal. He said he'd had a dream where I was lost and alone, and he was convinced it was a sign from God. I sat there feeling like a cornered animal as they all watched me with expectant eyes. I didn't know what to do, so I just walked out. I couldn't handle the pressure and the guilt they were trying to put on me. I went to a friend's house and stayed there for a couple of days, ignoring my family's calls and texts. When I finally went home, I found out that my mom had taken to her bed, depressed. My dad said it was my fault and that I had to fix it. I felt so trapped. I went to see her, and she was just lying there, looking so small and sad. She wouldn't talk to me, just turned her face to the wall. I felt like the worst son in the world. But then something unexpected happened. My uncle, who had been silent during the intervention, pulled me aside. He confessed that he too had doubts about his faith and that he admired my courage for being honest. He said he'd support me no matter what the rest of the family thought. It was a small comfort, but it meant the world to me. The next day, my sister came to me, crying. She said she was scared of what was happening to our family and that she didn't want to lose me. She begged me to just pretend for the sake of peace. I didn't know what to say to her. I hated the idea of lying again, but I also hated seeing my family in pain. I'm still trying to figure out what to do. It feels like no matter what I choose, someone gets hurt. And the worst part is I can't shake the feeling that I'm being manipulated, that my family's using my sister and my mom's health to guilt me into conforming. But I can't prove it, and I don't want to believe it. It's all just a mess. Thanks for reading. My roommate's husband overstayed his welcome and made my life a living hell. So I called the landlord and got them evicted. Hi Reddit, I, 24-year-old female, used to live in a very small 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment with 2 roommates, Kayla, 32-year-old female, and Mina, 33-year-old female. Mina has a husband, Drew, in his 30s, who lives and works in another state. Mina moved because of studies. We moved in together earlier last year, and for the first 3 months of our stay, Drew would just randomly show up to the apartment unannounced, spend about a week, and then leave. During his stay, he also took up our shared living space, was very noisy, and had poor hygiene. Neither Kayla nor I were comfortable with Drew coming and going as he pleases. We let Mina know that she must give us prior notice if Drew is to come over in the future, and that he needs to be more respectful while staying over. Mina got very defensive, but eventually she agreed and said that Drew was going to come over for 1 month around the end of the year. Kayla and I agreed, thinking that it was fine if he could respect our boundaries while staying over. It turns out that Drew was as rude and noisy as ever and continued hogging the common spaces. I did not want to revoke my promise, so I just wished that he would reach the 1-month mark and leave. Fast forward to the end of the month, and Drew shows no signs of leaving. I asked Mina, and she said that his boss allowed him to work remotely for a period of time, and he was going to stay another 2 weeks. At this point, I am almost certain that he was never going to leave and that polite communication was not going to work. I immediately contacted my landlord, told him about the situation of Mina having a person coming over for an extended stay without permission. Our lease specifies that anyone staying over 14 days must only stay with the explicit written consent of the landlord and pay additional rent. The landlord contacted Mina, telling her that her husband needed to leave immediately. I told her and her husband that I expect him to leave early in the morning the next day. Mina blew up on me, saying that I was a backstabber who went behind her back to tattle on the landlord, and that if I minded her husband that much, I should not have agreed to let Drew come over in the first place, and that she was no longer going to be polite and civil towards me because I deserved none. She got so aggressive and hostile that I no longer felt safe in the apartment, so I reached out to my landlord, and my landlord agreed to terminate my lease early, and I moved out. Some of my friends think that I did the right thing by asking them to leave immediately, and that Kayla and I were more than gracious to let Drew stay on for 1 month without paying rent and utilities in the first place. Others think that I should have given them time to find somewhere to move to, instead of pressurizing them to leave early in the morning the next day. Mina might also get into trouble with the landlord for violating the lease. So am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Mina knew the rules of this arrangement going in and continuously violated them to the detriment of her roommates. She doesn't deserve time to figure her situation out because she knew this wasn't right in the first place. This wasn't an emergency or a case of hardship. If she wants a place where her husband can come and go as he pleases, she needs a place without roommates. Comment 2. That's what happens when someone continues to take others for granted and disrespect their time and space. They had a lot of time to make sure the original tenants, you and Kayla, they were sharing space with weren't inconvenienced but chose not to. And now they don't like it when there are repercussions. Good on you for putting a stop to that. Not the idiot now for the update. Thanks for keeping up with my story. So after I moved out, things got even messier. Kayla, who was still stuck in the apartment with Mina, was now bearing the brunt of Mina's anger. Mina started blaming Kayla for not defending her against me, saying she should have been a better friend. Kayla was shocked. She had always been neutral, trying not to take sides. But Mina's behavior was getting out of hand. One evening, Kayla came home to find her room trashed. Clothes were thrown everywhere, and her laptop screen was cracked. Mina denied doing it, but Kayla knew better. She had seen Mina's temper flare up before, but this was something else. Kayla was scared, and she didn't know what to do. She couldn't afford to move out like I did, and she felt trapped. Meanwhile, Drew was still around, and he was getting more comfortable by the day. He started inviting friends over, turning the apartment into a hangout spot. Kayla's privacy was completely gone. She was losing sleep and her performance at work was suffering. She felt like she was at her breaking point. One day, Kayla came home to find Drew had taken over her parking spot. When she confronted him, he shrugged it off, saying he'd move it later. But later never came. Kayla was furious. She had been patient, but this was too much. She decided to take action. She called the landlord and explained everything. The trashed room, the constant noise, the friends over all the time, and now the parking spot. The landlord was furious. He had been lenient with Mina before, but this was a clear violation of the lease. He gave Mina and Drew a notice to vacate the apartment within a week. Mina was livid. She accused Kayla of betrayal and said she was ruining her life. But Kayla stood her ground. She knew she had to protect herself. The week passed in a tense blur, with Mina and Drew packing their things and leaving dirty looks in their wake. On the last day as they were moving out, Drew accidentally dropped a box of Mina's things, shattering several items. Mina lost it. She started screaming at Drew, blaming him for everything. The eviction, the broken friendships, the stress. It was a side of Mina that neither Kayla nor I had ever seen. Drew, usually so brash and confident, was reduced to silence. He looked ashamed, and for a moment, Kayla felt sorry for him. After they left, the apartment was eerily quiet. Kayla was alone, but she felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had stood up for herself and it had paid off. She started cleaning up the mess left behind, determined to start fresh. The next day, Kayla got a text from Mina. It was an apology. Mina said she was sorry for everything and that she had been under a lot of stress. She admitted that she had taken it out on Kayla and me and that she regretted her actions. Kayla was surprised but appreciated the apology. She replied, wishing Mina well, but she knew their friendship would never be the same. Life went on. Kayla found a new roommate, someone quiet and respectful. I settled into my new place, feeling at peace with my decision to move out. It was a tough week, but in the end, It felt like we had all learned something about boundaries, respect, and standing up for ourselves. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!